The wind blew softly across the Heartland ranch, carrying the quiet sounds of horses and leaves. Amy walked toward the barn, holding Lindy's tiny hand, just like any other day. But then she stopped. Her eyes froze. Her breath caught in her throat. There he was, standing in the golden light just outside the barn. Ty. His eyes locked with hers. For a moment, time itself stood still. Could it really be him? Amy's heart pounded. She blinked, hoping it wasn't her mind playing tricks. But he didn't vanish. He took a step closer. And everything Amy had buried deep inside, every memory, every tear, every lost dream, rushed to the surface. Ty Borden had returned. But how and why now? Amy couldn't move. Her body refused to take even one step forward. In front of her stood the man she had loved more than anything, Ty Borden. He wasn't a ghost. He wasn't a dream. He looked real. His hair was a little longer. His eyes still held that same spark. He smiled gently, like no time had passed. Amy's hand tightened around Lindy's. The little girl looked up at her mother, confused by the sudden stillness. Ty's voice broke the silence. "Amy," he whispered, his voice shaking. Amy let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. She finally took one step forward, then another. Her heart wanted to run to him, to throw her arms around him. But her mind still held on to fear. How could this be real? She had cried over his grave. She had built a new life. And yet, here he was. From a distance, Jack stepped out of the house. His old eyes widened the moment he saw Ty. He dropped the coffee cup he was holding. It shattered on the porch. Lou followed, and her hand flew to her mouth. Tim came out behind them and stopped dead in his tracks. The entire Heartland family stood frozen, looking at the man they had mourned for years. Ty looked around, clearly overwhelmed. "I know this is hard to believe," he said, voice trembling. "But I'm really here." Amy's lip quivered. You died." "I know," he said. "But something happened. Something I can't explain." The moment was electric. No one dared speak. Jack slowly stepped forward. "If this is some kind of joke," he started. Ty shook his head. "It's not. I don't know how to explain it. I just woke up. Somewhere cold. Somewhere strange. But I kept thinking of home. Of you, Amy. Of Lindy. I had to find my way back." Amy reached out and touched his face. He was warm, solid, real. Tears spilled from her eyes. "You came back." And just like that, the Heartland, family's world shifted. Nothing would ever be the same again. Amy sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the old photo on her nightstand, her and Ty on their wedding day. Her fingers trembled as they brushed over the frame. That same man had stood before her just hours ago. Alive, breathing, speaking. But her heart was in chaos. Was this truly her Ty? Or was fate playing the cruelest trick of all? Downstairs, the house was silent, but Amy's thoughts were loud. Every memory she had worked so hard to put away came rushing back. The nights she cried herself to sleep. The days she tried to be strong for Lindy. The quiet moments when she whispered, "I miss you," into the wind. And now, the man she had buried in her heart stood in their home again. Was she supposed to just pick up where they left off? When Ty had reached out to touch her cheek earlier, her body remembered the feeling. The warmth of his hand, the calm his presence used to bring. But there was also pain, sharp, deep pain. Because love like that doesn't come back without reopening old wounds. Amy thought about Lindy. How would she even explain this to her daughter? "Your daddy is back." Those words sounded both joyful and terrifying. What if it didn't last? What if this miracle had a limit? In her heart, Amy wanted to run into Ty's arms and never let go. But her mind feared losing him all over again. She looked out the window, watching Ty as he walked alone across the field, hands in his pockets. Head down. He looked just as lost as she felt. Later, they sat across from each other in the kitchen. Neither said a word at first, just the sound of the old clock ticking. Finally, Amy whispered, "I don't know how to feel. You were gone, and I changed." "I had to," Ty nodded. "I know. I missed so much. I don't expect anything. I needed to see you again. And Lindy, even just once." Amy's eyes filled with tears. She had fought so hard to move on. But in the space of one breath, all the walls she had built around her heart began to crack. Love didn't die with Ty. It had simply gone quiet, waiting in the shadows. And now that he was back, it roared louder than ever. But love wasn't simple anymore. It was tangled in grief, confusion, and fear. Still, Amy couldn't deny it. The part of her that still believed in forever had just been reignited. Jack Bartlett had seen a lot in his long life: storms, fires, heartbreak, and healing. But nothing had ever shaken him like seeing Ty Borden walk up the front steps of the Heartland ranch again. Jack didn't say a word at first. He just stood there, gripping the wooden rail so tight his knuckles turned white. His old heart beat like a hammer in his chest. This wasn't possible. It couldn't be, and yet it was. Lou came out next, half laughing, thinking it was some kind of prank. "Is this a joke?" she said, stepping back. But when Ty said her name in that familiar soft tone, all the air seemed to leave her lungs. "No," she whispered. This can't be happening." Her body began to shake as tears filled her eyes. "We buried you." Tim wasn't as gentle. He stormed forward, grabbing Ty's shirt. "Where the hell have you been?" he demanded, eyes wild. "Do you know what you did to Amy? To this family? What kind of game is this?" But even as he shouted, his voice cracked with pain. Deep down, even he couldn't hide it. He had missed Ty, and he was scared that this was all a lie. Ty didn't fight back. He just looked down and said quietly, "I don't know why I'm still alive, Tim. I just know I am." And then there was Georgie. She stood in the doorway, frozen, like the world had stopped turning. Ty had been like a big brother to her, someone she admired more than anyone. For years after his death, she had pushed herself harder, trying to live up to the strength he had believed she had. And now, he was here. She didn't know whether to run into his arms or run away. The family gathered inside the house, but no one could eat. The dinner table felt different now, like the air itself was heavier. Jack kept staring at Ty's hands, as if checking whether they were real. Lou kept reaching for her glass, but never taking a sip. Tim paced. Georgie watched silently from the corner. Finally, Jack spoke. "If this is real, then it's the second biggest miracle I've ever seen. The first was you loving Amy the way you did." Ty's eyes dropped to the table. "I still do." That sentence cut through everyone like a blade. Amy looked away, her emotions too raw to control. No one at that table could deny it. Ty's return had opened every scar. But behind the pain, there was something else too, something old and powerful. Hope. And yet none of them could shake the fear. If Ty came back from the dead, what else might follow? No one in Hudson could ignore the news anymore. Ty Borden had returned. Whispers spread through town like wildfire. Old friends showed up at the ranch, not sure whether to believe the miracle or question it. And while the world tried to make sense of it, the people inside Heartland had a more personal struggle. What now? Amy stood alone in the stable, brushing Spartan in slow, distracted strokes. Her thoughts ran in circles. Ty was back. But was that enough? Their love had once been strong enough to survive anything: distance, danger, even death. But this was beyond anything they had ever faced. It wasn't just about love anymore. It was about trust. About rebuilding something that had been buried in grief. Season 19 doesn't just restart the story, it reshapes everything. It's not the same love story. It's a second chance, filled with hesitation, longing, and quiet hope. Ty wants to reclaim his life, but Amy has lived a life without him for years. Their rhythms are different now, their pain is deep, and yet, in every look they share, there's something unspoken. a reminder of what once was and what might be again. But the road ahead isn't easy. Jack worries every night, asking himself if Ty's return is permanent or temporary. Lou keeps trying to keep the family grounded, reminding Amy to take things slow. Tim watches Ty like a hawk, afraid to trust but too shaken to ignore the truth. Even Lindy is trying to understand how her dreams of her father are now standing in front of her, breathing and real. And Ty, he's searching for answers, for purpose, for a way to belong again. He's not the same man who left. He's scarred, quiet, and haunted by the unknown, by how he survived and why he was sent back. Season 19 promises more than just love. It promises a test of destiny. It asks the question, can a love story survive the impossible? Can a broken family find peace with the past and rebuild a future that was once stolen? In the end, Ty and Amy may discover something even deeper than love, the power of healing, not just for themselves, but for everyone who still believes that even after goodbye, some love stories refuse to end. By the next morning, Heartland was no longer just a quiet ranch. It had become the center of whispers, stares, and disbelief. In town, people paused their shopping just to share the same question. Did you hear? Ty Borden is alive. At Maggie's diner, cups of coffee grew cold as jaws dropped. Old friends and strangers alike made the trip to the ranch, some in hope, others in doubt, many just to see the man they had once mourned. Some called it a miracle. Others feared it was something unnatural. Mrs. Bell wept softly, saying it was proof that love can pull someone back from the other side. But others, like Caleb, looked Ty in the eyes with uncertainty, wondering if something about him had changed, because while Ty looked the same, there was something in his eyes, something distant, like part of him was still lost. Back at the ranch, Amy watched it all unfold with a quiet storm building inside her. The town's opinions didn't matter, not really. What mattered was the war happening inside her heart. Every time she saw Ty smile, every time he helped Lindy with her boots or leaned against the barn like he used to, a part of her melted. But the other part? The part that had cried in the dark and raised a daughter alone? That part didn't know if it was safe to believe. Was this real, or was it a beautiful fantasy she would wake from? One evening, Amy sat alone on the hill overlooking the ranch. Ty joined her in silence, sitting close but not too close. "Do you remember this spot?" she asked. He nodded. "It's where I first told you I was scared of losing you." Amy stared ahead. "Funny, now I'm scared of finding you again." He reached for her hand gently. "I don't know how I'm here, Amy. I only know I don't want to be anywhere else." And yet, even as he said it, Amy's mind whispered cruel doubts. Was he really Ty? Or a version of him shaped by her memories, her grief? She had built walls to survive his death, and now, with every glance, he was breaking through them without even trying. The town could gossip all they wanted, but Amy knew this was bigger than headlines, bigger than reunion. It was about truth, about facing love with eyes wide open and deciding whether the risk of another heartbreak was worth daring to love again. Because if this was fantasy, she'd lose him twice. But if it was real, then maybe, just maybe, love had found a way back home. The moonlight fell gently over the Heartland ranch, casting long silver shadows across the fields. Inside the house, everything was quiet. Amy stood in the hallway, watching Ty sleep on the couch with Lindy curled against his chest. Her daughter's tiny fingers were wrapped tightly around Ty's shirt, like she was afraid to let go, like she had always known he would return. Amy's heart ached at the sight. Not from pain this time, but from something deeper. A silent mix of fear, wonder, and fragile hope. She leaned against the wall, closing her eyes, breathing in the moment. Ty's return had shaken her world, turned every truth upside down. But somehow, in this quiet hour, the chaos had stilled. Earlier that day, Jack had taken Amy aside. He didn't say much, just gave her a look filled with years of wisdom and love. Miracles don't come with explanations, he said. They come with choices. And Amy knew exactly what he meant. Ty's return wasn't just a gift, it was a decision. She could let the fear control her, or she could let her heart open again. The next morning, the sun rose over the ranch in soft gold. Amy walked out to the porch with 2 mugs of coffee. Ty was already there, watching the horses graze in the distance. For a long time, they said nothing. Then Amy sat beside him, handed him the second mug, and simply said, "I don't know where this road leads, but if you're ready to walk it, I'll be right beside you." Ty didn't speak. He just reached over, laced his fingers with hers, and nodded. No promises, no big speeches, just a silent agreement, a shared understanding that love, even when broken, can grow back stronger. The past would never be erased, but the future, it was wide open. Heartland Season 19 doesn't just give viewers a reunion. It gives them a journey of healing, of rebuilding, and of rediscovering the kind of love that lives even after goodbye. And as Amy and Ty stood together in the morning light, one thing was certain. Their story wasn't over. It had just begun. Again.